On this day of discovery, author and Cornerstone University President Joe Stoll travels to modern Turkey to the excavations of two ancient cities, Thyatira and Philadelphia. These first-century communities were home for 2 of 7 churches specifically addressed in the beginning of the book of Revelation, a revelation from the resurrected Jesus received in a vision by the Apostle John. At the end of the first century, Christianity is facing mounting opposition in the empire. John is a prisoner on the island of Patmos for his faith in one God, which goes against a Roman Empire that embraces many gods, chief among them the Caesar of Rome. It is on Patmos that Jesus appears to John to send a message to the world, a message that is today what we know as the book of Revelation. But to the first century church, letters of challenge and hope. Journey to the 7 churches of Revelation, the letters to Thyatira and Philadelphia on this day of discovery.
And to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, These things says he who is holy, who is true, he who has the key of David, he who opens and no one shuts, and shuts and no one opens. I know your works. See, I have set before you an open door, and no one can shut it. For you have a little strength, have kept my word, and have not denied my name. Indeed, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan who say they are Jews and are not, but lie. Indeed, I will make them come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you. Because you have kept my command to persevere, I also will keep you from the hour of trial which shall come upon the whole world, to test those who dwell on the earth. Behold, I am coming quickly. Hold fast what you have, that no one may take your crown. He who overcomes, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go out no more. And I will write on him the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which comes down out of heaven from my God. And I will write on him my new name. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches.
Philadelphia is a prosperous city until the year 17 AD, when this region was struck by a cataclysmic earthquake. An earthquake that was so devastating that Rome actually exempted Philadelphia from tribute for 5 years. The Philadelphians were hoping for a little more help from Rome to get them rebuilt, which was never really forthcoming, so they felt somewhat neglected by the emperor. Now, that neglect turned into a sense of deep betrayal when Domitian decreed that all of the vineyards of this region should be torn out. You know, I couldn't help but notice driving here today that in this beautiful valley, the vineyards were lush and full. The vineyards were the backbone of their economy. They were so good here that they competed with the vineyards in Rome. And so Domitian said, you guys tear your vineyards out so that ours can be the front edge of commerce. In doing that, he broke the backbone of their economy. So they felt deeply betrayed. The early Christians here in Philadelphia felt betrayed as well, betrayed by the authorities. So you can imagine what it meant for these early Christians to get a letter from Jesus where he began by saying, I am the holy and true one. Holy, meaning that he was totally other and different, and in that otherness, he was perfect, that he could do no wrong, that he would never do them wrong. And true, and that he would be absolutely faithful to them, never neglect them, never betray them. That was a word that these Christians desperately needed to hear. The curvature of the slope behind me represents the ancient seats of the theater that were part of the landscape of Philadelphia that Christians would have sat on and walked through. These early Christians receiving the letter from Jesus Christ read the references to open doors and shut doors. So what did that mean? Well, most likely it meant the fact that they had been kicked out of the synagogue and the door had been slammed shut behind them. That meant trouble for them. Maybe we need a little background here to fully understand what was going on. Jews who were persecuted fled throughout Asia Minor and established themselves in these little towns and would build a synagogue where they would meet and worship. Early Christians who came to this area would meet in those synagogues because in the early days, Christianity was really a Jewish sect, welcomed into the synagogue. But in time, as they preached the resurrection of Jesus Christ, as they proclaimed that he was the true Messiah, and as their evangelistic fervor brought other people to Christianity, they were finally excluded, kicked out, not allowed to come in. That meant for them that they became alienated from family and friends because the synagogue was the center of the social life of these early Jews. Not only that, it meant that they suffered some shame in the town when people would say, "You're supposed to be at the synagogue now, why aren't you there?" You know, I can imagine these early Christians, as their family would go to the synagogue, and as they would try to walk in, that the elder in the synagogue would say, no, you can't come, and shut the door. Or if they would go back, knock on the door, a little peephole would open. Someone would look out, say no, and shut the peephole. So this sense of exclusion was deep. Not only separated them from family and brought some shame to them in the community, but most seriously, it meant that since they were off the rolls in a synagogue, that their lives were at risk. In the early times of the empire, Jews were exempt from having to say Caesar is Lord. They had a register in this synagogue, and the names that were on that register were exempt. Now, these Christians' names would be struck from the book. Maybe, in fact, a reference to that statement in Sardis where Jesus said, "I will never strike your name from the book of life." What Jesus was saying is, you will always belong to me. Well, they would be struck from the registry. And if the Roman officials came, and if these Christians weren't proclaiming that Jesus Christ was Lord, their lives were at stake. Today, right now, wherever you are, you need to know that there are tens of thousands of Christians around the world that are suffering this kind of exclusion and alienation because they refuse to deny Jesus Christ. Marty and I have friends whose families have had a funeral for them once they've accepted Jesus Christ. Just a few days ago, I was chatting with a man who told me that when one of his friends had accepted Christ and made it known to his family, that two of his brothers plotted to kill him. Christians for years, centuries, have been paying the price for Christ, the price of exclusion. And that's what these Philadelphians were experiencing when they were betrayed by the authorities of the synagogue. The remarkable thing is that these followers of Christ here in Philadelphia refused to bail. They chose to bear the shame and face the danger for Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ writes this letter to encourage them. It's a really sweet letter. He says to them, "I hold the key of David," which meant that he had authority over the house of Israel. And he said, "I will open a door for you and it will never be shut." Then he said something very fascinating. He said, "These who have excluded you, someday they will bow their knees before you and know that I love you." I'm not sure what that means. when that will happen. But since these were Jewish believers, I wonder if they thought back to their national hero, Joseph. The one with the coat of many colors, whose brothers terribly betrayed him and put him in the path of death. Years later, the brothers show up in Egypt, and Joseph is a ruler, and they bow their knees before him, begging him for bread and sustenance. And I wonder if ringing in these Christians' head were the words of Joseph when he said, "You meant it to me for evil, but God meant it for good." Maybe. I hope so. And then Christ said, "Hold fast, because I'm coming again." And so he's made these promises to these excluded Christians, and as though they weren't enough, he ramps it up and gives them 4 more. He says, "I will make you a pillar in my Father's house." Pillars are something that are stable, steady. They are always there. Nobody moves them. And he says, "You will never go out of my Father's house. And I will put the name of God on your chest. And in the end, I will bring you into the New Jerusalem, the greatest city of all." I just love this about Jesus Christ. When people are steady and faithful to him, he comes alongside as their cheerleader and encourages them and thanks them for their loyalty. And some of us, even today, no doubt, are feeling excluded because of our stand for Christ. Maybe from family, maybe from friends, maybe at the office. Somewhere, some people are suffering for Jesus Christ and excluded. Well, here's the message. Jesus Christ notices that. And what you lose here, he gives you back in spades eternally.
And I will give him the morning star. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. He who overcomes, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go out no more. And I will write on him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which comes down out of heaven from my God. And I will write on him my new name. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches.